Goodbye, last credit card. We did it. This is the first time since I was 18 years old that I do not have any kind of credit card balance in the whole world. I know how controversial not having a credit card is in today's world, and they're just so accessible. For families, it's like the emergency fund, right? Because most people do not have 3 to 6 months of savings in an account somewhere that they can just pull anytime they have an emergency, right? So the credit card has become the emergency fund for most of North Americans. Even though we just paid off our credit card balance, we have not been using a credit card for over a year now. It was a long, hard lesson to learn that it doesn't make sense to pay off a credit card while you're still using it if you're just going to turn around and go back into debt tomorrow. We make an average income for a regular size family, and we've managed to do this not because we're better or because we're smarter. If anything, we've been among the stupidest people using credit card debt. So really went all in when we were young, and we've kind of been paying the price ever since. So I can't even tell you what this feels like to not have a credit card statement or balance of any kind in the world. It's so freeing. We've made amazing progress this year. At the beginning of the year, I didn't expect to feel this free. Just staring at this long list of things we needed to pay off, and we were really, really set on attacking it this year. It's very overwhelming. It's overwhelming when you sit down with a pen and paper and you just list everything out, and you just see this mountain in front of you, and you're like, how am I going to tackle this? Thankfully, with just throwing every extra penny we had at our debt and selling a few things, and just it helped us to pay off $30,000 by the end of June. That felt really good too, but we still had credit card debt. We started off the year with about $16,000 in credit card debt. Oh, actually, that's not true. I also had credit cards. We started off the year with almost $22,000 in credit card debt. By September, we have 0 credit card debt. That felt so amazing. It feels so good. Just thinking logically about it, you guys, just pre-pandemic, Americans alone were almost $1 trillion in credit card debt. 78% of people carry a balance on their credit cards every single month. And those who don't, we all overspend at some point. I've told myself plenty of times, I'm just going to put our groceries on the credit card and I'm just going to pay it off every month because we have to eat. Guys, I got a watch one time just from the groceries that we spent on our credit card every month. That watch cost me $20,000 in food. We end up spending more. For sure, when I was buying our groceries on a Visa, I was spending more. There is a definite shift for me in my mind when I'm putting groceries on a credit card versus calculating, am I sticking to my budget? Am I going to have the amount of cash I need to pay for these groceries because I made a budget and I want to stick to it? Did I leave enough in our checking account instead of our savings account to pay for these groceries because we made a plan on our budget and we're going to stick to it, versus having a Visa and this wide open field of you can go into as much debt as you want. Spend freely what you want to buy on groceries. It's fine. There's a huge shift for me mentally when I'm in a grocery store walking around with a credit card versus walking around with cash and a plan. I need to spend this much and not $1 more because that's my plan. That might sound stressful for you because it's certainly stressful for me. Maybe you don't. Maybe you feel I'm good with my credit card. I pay it off every month. I never carry a balance. I don't overspend. You don't know what you're talking about. That's fine. For us, it doesn't work. And for 78% of North Americans, it doesn't work either. I think the important thing is to know yourself. to know your habits and really start to pay attention. Even people who've told me they pay off their credit cards every single month admit that they do end up spending a little bit more if they use a credit card or not. I'm not suggesting that you just carry around wads of cash. I find that very difficult to do. I use my debit card and I still plan ahead. And if I can, I use cash. I buy things online too. But if they don't take PayPal or my debit card, then I just don't do business with that company. That's my choice now, and you don't have to follow the same things that I'm doing, but I've seen how it betters my family when we have a plan, we plan ahead for a budget, we stick to it. It's so much easier to stick to when there's no access to use debt. The checkout and you're like, okay, I cannot go over my budget. This is a budget we agreed to and we're gonna stick to it. It takes extra work. It's annoying. It's frustrating sometimes to not be careless about spending habits. I know for myself, credit cards don't work, and I'm not going to let it affect my family any longer. And it feels so good to take back control. It feels amazing. I've had people tell me that they just must not make as much as us. The problem with debt is that it sucks out your vitality. Anything you want to do, you have this weight hanging over your head. Any dream that you have, the world wants to make it seem like debt is the way to your dreams, but it's not. If you work hard and you set aside money in a very old-fashioned grandma kind of way, like old-time advice, you can achieve your dreams. And I'm telling you, even I have this goal to be completely debt-free by the time we're 40. I'm going to be 35 this year. He's 36. And that includes our mortgage. Our mortgage is going to take some attacking, but we're here for it. We really, really want to be debt-free by the time we're 40. That's our goal. So we still have projects that we have to work on, like still renovating our home. We have some outdoor projects we want to work on, and that's going to take money too, but we're going to cash flow those things. And I think that society tells us in order to live our dreams, we have to do it now, like YOLO. If you only live once and you have to do everything at the same time, but your dream will feel a lot better if you're not enslaved to a credit card, if you're not enslaved to that payment every month, limiting your ability to do what you really want to do. Okay, story time. When I was 18 years old, I actually came into some money that I inherited. It was money that was also owed to me. So I ended up receiving a large amount of money, more than I had ever had in my life. I had never had money, really. Even with my multiple jobs that I carried, I just never had thousands and thousands of dollars at a time. And I blew through that money pretty quickly. It was just so accessible. And I spent to the point where I ran out of that money, and I was on such a momentum with spending that I started using credit cards. And I remember going on a trip to New York City and walking into the Louis Vuitton store and purchasing a $1,800 bag on a credit card. I remember walking out and thinking, I'm wearing a dress from Target and I just bought an almost $2,000 bag on a credit card. I'm trying to be something that I'm not. And I'm trying to live a life that I don't even think I really want. So all that to say, it took me getting married and having multiple kids. I realized early on in our marriage that I needed to get a handle on our finances. Soon realized a few years in, I need to read some books on how to handle money better. And that's really where the journey began. I started hearing about living life debt-free, living frugally. And fast forward to when we decided we needed a house. The place we were renting at the time, they were going to stop renting the house that we were living in completely. So we needed to find another place to live. Had 3 children, and we just kind of felt very typically like, okay, I think it's time that we buy our own house. You know, we have children and that's usually what you do. Back of my mind, I just knew I didn't want to spend, you know, $200,000 or $300,000 on a house. We couldn't have afforded that much then anyways. We could have afforded probably over $100,000 house for sure. I found a house online that was selling for $35,000. It came with 34 acres of land. And that just blew my mind because even I have always had this dream since we were first married that we wanted to kind of live off grid or live self-sufficiently on our own somewhere and have a lot of land and kind of raise our children on a big piece of property. So that was just like, wow, what a great deal. We should totally do this. The house was falling apart. Like the shell of it was okay, but it was going to take a tremendous overhaul to get it fixed. And I was very confident that we could do it and that we could do it very minimally and that it would just all work out. And those rose-colored lenses of youth, I really believe we could. So fast forward again, the house didn't work out. We couldn't live in it. It was too broken down. We had little kids. All the confidence in that plan really drained fast. So we ended up renting another house and then living with my in-laws for a while and then renting another house. And we were just getting super discouraged, really put a wet blanket on those dreams. We ended up moving to a house that some friends of ours were moving away and they offered to us. Well, you know, we kind of already bought a house, but we needed a bigger space from the house that we were renting at that time. And so we made the leap. We moved into a bungalow that was slightly bigger than what we were renting. And we've been here ever since. And honestly, this house has become my dream home. It has 64 acres and we've paid down a lot on our mortgage. And God willing, we'll be able to pay it off by the time we're 40. A little bit earlier would be awesome. Is that even if you have limited income to throw at your debt, even if it's $100 in the beginning, just get started. Just start somewhere. Because once you start paying off your debt, it feels so good. You get that ball rolling, you get that momentum going, and you start to feel like a new person. You start to gain hope and confidence that, yes, I can do this. This is going to work out. Even if it takes 3 years, even if it takes 5 years, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be free of debt. So at the beginning of the year, we had credit card debt, we had student loan debt, we had just a series of little crappy debts that kind of piled up over the years, like wanted a gas station, an electrician who had come by and didn't give us his information to pay him that night. And so we said, oh, we'll go by your house and pay you later. And he was never there. And it just kind of hung there. A very old, like parking ticket. There were all these little crappy debts that were just useless and kind of hanging on to our budget with a vice grip, just like all these little things we felt like we couldn't shake off. It felt so good as this year kind of progressed, start paying those things off and getting them gone. Whether you make $250,000 a year, whether you make $20,000 a year, if you have debt and you owe someone something, you can get started today. You can make a budget. You can follow some really simple steps to start paying off debt and getting free and getting your life back. So you're not a rat in a wheel just working to pay bills. It's not worth it. Get your life back. Get that income back for yourself, for your family, so that you have options to do things that you've always dreamt about doing. I've never dreamed of being wealthy or rich. If that was in my plans, I would have pursued that a really long time ago. I have always dreamed of being free and just having a plan to be able to support my kids someday, to not need any help from them as we get older, just to be really self-sufficient and be able to support them rather than needing their support, and to be able to visit them anytime. Well, I just want to not be entangled by things that I bought, like makeup or clothing that I bought when I was 20 and I'm still paying for when I'm 34. You know, like, I just want to cut those ties and be done with it. So anyone can do this. Even if you have, like I said, $100 to throw at your debt a month, do it. Get started, but have a budget, have a plan. I highly recommend Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps to Success in Paying Off Debt. I do not necessarily agree with everything that Dave Ramsey shares, and that's okay. It's not my life goals. My life goal is not to be the wealthiest person on the planet. Chasing wealth is not my goal. But being self-sufficient is having to not be a burden to my kids someday, that even I can accomplish some things that we've always wanted to do. The only way we're going to do that really and freely is to be debt-free. So this is just to encourage you guys, if you have a hope or a dream to, retire a certain way, to go on that vacation, do it with cash. Start getting out of debt. The more freedom you have in your budget, the more you can throw at retirement, the more you can go on that vacation and not feel the aftermath of a credit card bill hanging over your head. I share this very humbly. I don't mean it as this is the only way to do it and anyone who has credit card debt is evil. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying credit card debt is limiting your dreams, and any kind of debt will do that at some point because you are tied to an institution that demands a certain amount of money from you every single month that needs to come out of your paycheck. Imagine having all that money just piling up in your bank, or being able to invest it in your future, your kids' future, rather than having to throw it at things you bought years before. Having a plan to spend a certain amount of money in the grocery store or online or wherever, and sticking to it might feel restrictive and stressful, but ultimately it is the most stress relieving thing, because at the end of the month, you have all this extra money because you were watching where your income was going. It's not restrictive, it's freeing. So thank you so much for taking the time today to listen to our story. And let me know if this is something that you've tried before, if it works for you, if it didn't work for you, if you have attempted to pay off debt but kind of got sucked back in. This happened to us. I can link the video down below. If you want to get free of debt, some people don't want to. If you're one of the people who do want to get out of debt, who do want to live debt free or have a hope to, but you feel stuck, I hope this video encourages you. For sure, we are not the most inspirational story on the internet of being able to pay off debt. There are plenty more, and I really encourage you to go on Dave Ramsey's YouTube channel and check out some of those debt-free screams. They have so many stories about people who had real life struggles of kids having cancer and losing a spouse and people losing their jobs, and they still made it through and paid off a ridiculous amount of debt. I really encourage you to check that out and to be inspired by really inspirational people. But we are just a humble family that is just very average. We're in very average debt, but we are just a humble family that is just very average. We went into a very average debt and probably more than average stupid debt, but we are determined to pay it off, and we'd just like to be an encouragement to anyone if they feel like they want to do this, but they don't know where to get started. And stay tuned as we continue to pay off our debt. We are not out of the woods yet, but we are credit card debt free, and I'm so excited. I do recommend starting with Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps just because that's what works for us. If you have something that works for you and you've really been successful at it, I'd love to hear what that is. Have a great day.